I'm going to tell you about my current research project on Christmas tourism and looking at the business of Santa Claus in Lapland in Finland. So some of the research results have already been published at Organisation Studies with my co-authors, Professor Katie Mason from Lancaster University and Dr. Philip Roscoe from the University of St. Andrews. But I will tell you quite a bit about stories that I've found more recently. I've been collecting quite a bit of new research data. I just recently got some research funding from the British Academy, Leverhulme Small Research Grant Scheme. So that has enabled me to go back to Finland, not only to see family, but actually go and collect more data. I spent quite a bit of time here in London at the British Library as well, looking at newspaper archives from the 1950s to today. And it's still ongoing. So I will give you some snapshots and stories which I've found in the data, but understandably there will be some gaps, so I'll be welcoming questions, feedback, comments at the end that you find might be missing from the story or what you'd like to hear a bit more about. All right, so I'll start with a question. So where does Santa Claus live? North Pole? Lapland, exactly, that's why we're here tonight. Well, even though I do want to believe that he lives in Finnish Lapland, I am not here to argue or prove you that that is the case. I'm more about, I'm going to kind of try and help us understand how this argument that Santa Claus is actually from Finnish Lapland, how it has been developed, how it has become situated in the very northern part of Finland, and how it has become materialized into Santa Claus industry in Finland, which is very, very important. I'm not going to tell a story about the history of Santa Claus as such, because there would be a lot to talk about. We don't have time for that. But I will more so try and understand how the Christmas tourism market has been developed and constructed in Finland. And another point to that is that my research is not looking at this phenomena from purely a consumer, a tourist perspective, but I'm trying to understand what's happening behind the scenes, how this remarkable infrastructure of actors has developed and evolved and is working to enable this industry, this business to materialize. So, the Sunday Telegraph in 1992, this is a quote from an article, says that Father Christmas is worth millions of pounds to the country which successfully claims him as his own. And let me tell you, there has been a lot of claims. Finland is one of them, but there has been a lot of debate around the home of Father Christmas. I'll come back to that in a few minutes. But if we consider Finland and Lapland in particular, about 30 years ago, no hotel, no restaurant was open through Christmas, the Christmas season. There was nothing going on. The city of Rovaniemi and the whole of Lapland was very quiet, enjoying the Christmas spirit and peace. So a lot has happened in those 30 years or so. And it's an intriguing transformation story, how this business and the market has been created around a certain figure, which we all know of, whether we believe or not. So we'll look at that, how this has happened, how it has materialized. So I'll show you, I don't know how many of you have visited Lapland. Lovely. So, but there are some of you who might not be fully aware of Rovaniemi and the experience. So I'll show you a short video by Visit Rovaniemi, the capital of Lapland, where the official home of Santa Claus is situated. It gives you an idea of what I'm talking about, what's the context.
Hello, my dear friends. My name is Joulupukki, but I'm also known as Santa Claus, Babbo Natale, Sinta Lauren, Père Noël, and so on. Let me tell you about my hometown of Rovaniemi. Rovaniemi is situated on the Arctic Circle in Lapland. It is a home for many wonderful and nice people. There are also quite a few reindeer in Rovaniemi. Rovaniemi is a very beautiful town. In winter it's covered with a white curtain of snow. And at night we can see the magical northern lights. Every year many of my friends from all over the world come visit me. In Rovaniemi they feel the true Christmas spirits and like to share it with their family and friends. My helpers from Rovaniemi tourist office keep me connected to the rest of the world. They make sure that everybody knows when something special happens in Rovaniemi. And now they have even made me my own stamp. There is always something fun to do in Rovaniemi. Winter or summer, you can make new animal friends. And you will never forget the moment when you see the northern lights with your own eyes. That is real Christmas magic. But what have they got to do with Christmas? There is only one place to find out. My dear friends, it is my great pleasure to invite you to visit Rovaniemi and experience the true magic of Christmas.
So that's Rovaniemi, magic of Christmas. Of course, Rovaniemi is not the only location where you can go and visit the real Father Christmas. I'll tell you a bit more about the different destinations in a minute. But that's the setting, that's the scene. So I'll talk you through, I'll give you an account of how this has developed. I'll start with introduction to talk about stories and myths and why I think it's interesting to study. I'll give you a bit of background on the context of this research, so Finland and Lapland, and how I've done this research. And then the juicy bit, so the story of the business of Santa Claus and how it has been constructed from its birth in a way to today. And finally conclude with some lessons learned. All right, so what is this research about? So you know the setting, but this is the starting point that really got me intrigued. I'm from Lapland myself, from the very northern part, and part of my CV there is 3 years of work experience as an elf myself. So it was from 2001 to 2003 when I was studying at university in the middle of Finland, and I went back for Christmas seasons to do a bit of work with the man himself. And so this is a quote from the advertising materials of a travel agency based here in the UK. It is a story shared, told, and sold. Not only in the UK, but all over the world increasingly, but that's pretty much where it started. So it says the air is crisp, but there is a warm glow that radiates from inside. The children creak open the door, and there he is. His boots are dark and heavy, his jacket the deepest red they've ever seen, his long snow-white beard leads their eyes open to his jolly smile, which asks, so what would you like for Christmas? And people travel all over, all the way to the northern parts of Finland, a remote location in Lapland. So this is me with Father Christmas in one of the locations. So that's the setting. And I'm really interested. I got really intrigued. So how has this happened? Also looking at it historically, how did Santa get situated in Finland? So I'll start with myths. So what is so specific about myths and stories, and I'm calling them myth-based markets and market creation. Instead of looking markets as in terms of demand and supply, I look at markets to understand socio-material networks of people, of organizations, institutions, material objects. So understanding what are the elements that make markets work. So on the right-hand side, you see this is what we usually consider in business. Managers use spreadsheets, they use figures, they use facts to make decisions, to plan and take action in their business. But a lot of business is surrounded by these different figures. They are surrounded around myths, around stories, around expectations about the future, uncertainties, imaginations, really. It's not just about Father Christmas, but we have Disneyland, we have Loch Ness in Scotland, even high technology markets a few years back. Who knew what 5G would look like? I don't know if we still know what it will actually be and how it will materialize. But managers are constantly taking action based on uncertainty, based on future expectations, based on their imaginaries. So if we consider Santa Claus, which is the focus of my research in this lecture, it has enormous economic significance and social significance around the world, and especially in the western part of the world. This time of the year, the festive season, it's the season of shopping, the season where we are expected to spend money, to find the perfect gifts, to decorate our houses, to go and experience Christmas and meet himself. I was reading the Times, the newspaper today when I was on the train from Edinburgh to London, and on the front page there was a quote about finding the perfect Christmas sweater dress. So it's not just Christmas jumpers anymore, but to be able to have a cozy Christmas, we need to buy the perfect Christmas sweater dresses. So it is about, it's a festive of shopping, and Santa Claus and Christmas is used as for advertising purposes to boost sales. But it's also about the experience of Christmas, right? So we want to meet the man himself. We can see Christmas grottos being built. We can go and meet him in shopping malls, in winter theme parks. Or we can travel a bit of a distance and go and meet him in different locations. He's a magical man, so he can be in multiple locations at the same time. So there is a certain story about how the myth of the extraordinary myth or story of Father Christmas can work as what I call a market infrastructure. So instead of what we usually consider as a market infrastructure, we have to have roads, we have to have railways to be able to function. But with a myth such as Father Christmas, we expect to see a jolly man with a white suit and a red suit and a red hat, with snow, with cold weather, a reindeer, and so and so. So it provides certain kind of a frame how you structure and build your markets and your market experiences. So what is a myth? If we look at Oxford English Dictionary, it says that a myth is a traditional story, typically involving supernatural beings or forces, which embodies and provides an explanation, etiology, or justification for something such as the early history of society, a religious belief or ritual, or a natural phenomenon. So quite often we relate myths to fairy tales, to children's books, universal and known stories that we think that are not true. But they do have power and an important role not only in societies, but in organizational life as well. So a very well-known scholar is Barbara Czarniawska in the field of management and organization studies, says that actually myths and fairy tales, they do have a role. They're reused in popular culture, but this shapes our organizational practices as well. There are recipes, there are rituals, there are ceremonies, legends in organizational settings as well. And often stories and myths legitimize action. They give meaning to certain actions in organizational settings. All right, so what I've been looking at is this economically extraordinary market around Christmas tourism, specifically in Finland. And I've been really interested about the performativity of that story, the myth. So how certain acts, certain speech acts specifically, they produce reality. So me saying here today to you, ho, 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 Merry Christmas, it doesn't mean much. It's a good gesture. I really do hope that you will have a lovely Christmas. But it will have a very different kind of a meaning when Santa Claus says it in his authentic setting in Lapland, surrounded by reindeer, surrounded by elves and snow, and so on. So it's performative in a way that also brings many businesses, entrepreneurs, councils, marketing, advertising agencies, different organizations together to make this market possible. Okay, so a few words about the context of this study and how I've conducted it. So this is a map of Finland, and in the darker grey bit you can see Lapland. So I do apologize for the possible inaccuracy in where these dots are placed. I did it myself, but I did do my best. So you can see Rovaniemi, it's basically the most southern location. So that is the capital of Lapland. It has the official Santa Claus village, the official Santa Claus airport, and the most extensive accommodation infrastructure and capacity. I'm originally from Enontekiö, which is one of the most northern parts of Finland, which does have an airport, but it's not connected to a railway infrastructure. So the airport is closed mostly throughout the year, but it's open around Christmas time. So it was 1996 when the first charter flights from Britain to Enontekiö took place. And then there's multiple other destinations which are more or less different size ski resorts in Lapland, where you can also go and travel and enjoy this experience. But more or less, tourism, and in particularly the Christmas tourism and winter season itself, is economically really significant for Lapland. So it was last year during the winter season, which the winter season starts in November until April. So from 2017 November until 2018 April, there were nearly 2 million overnight stays in Lapland, of which about 1.2 were by foreigners, and around 273,000 were from the UK. So it's quite a significant market for Lapland as well. And overall, throughout the year, overnight stays, 3 million overnight stays throughout the whole 2018. So the winter season from November to April is significant, two-thirds basically. So that's an interesting setting in terms of the sustainable development of this business. All right, so what have I done so far? A few weeks ago, I was visiting Rovaniemi myself, and went and met Father Christmas myself in his office, Of course, I've worked for him previously, but it was nice to go and greet him in his home. But basically, I've followed the stories around Father Christmas and how it has become situated in Finland, and how they've created this extraordinary market around this figure. So I've done quite a few interviews during the last three or 4 years. I've interviewed businesses, entrepreneurships, from reindeer farmers to husky operators to safari tour operators, travel agencies, hotels, but also kind of regional councils, Regional Council of Lapland, marketing agencies, so different stakeholders who are involved in the Christmas tourism and tourism in more generally in Lapland. As I mentioned earlier, quickly, I've done quite a bit of archival data collection. It's still ongoing, so I've spent time at the British Library, as well as the Regional Museum of Lapland in Rovaniemi, as well as the Library of Lapland in Finland, to see how the evolution of the Christmas tourism in Finland has taken place. And some observation as well. So I've been able to go and experience some of these experiences myself, meeting him, going around and taking part in different activities, reindeer rides, husky rides, and of course working myself with Santa quite a few years ago. So I would claim I have quite a good understanding of the market and how it has been constructed. Okay, so now the actual story. So I'll start with the debate on where is the actual home of Father Christmas. So here you can see a few different clips from newspaper articles, mainly from the 90s, asking where is the home of Father Christmas. So these are from the British Library newspaper archives. And you can see there is a bit of a debate going on, and saying that it really is $1 million business to the winner. So one of the articles says that children are confused, and it's understandable that they are confused where to send their letters to Santa, because there are many claims around the home. So it's not only Finland, by no means. It's Greenland, it's Alaska, Sweden, Norway, even Scotland in the 1975. So I'll show you a video of that very quickly, to show you what it looked like back then in Scotland.
Soldiers' memories. Christmas is all year round in Aviemore, up in the Highlands of Scotland. Santa Claus Land has only just been opened, but already it's a hit with the youngsters. There's Father Christmas and a sleigh ride right out of the storybooks. But Aviemore's all-season holiday centre features a touch of the Wild West on the side. Boot Hill means just that. Totem poles naturally lead to the most important landmark at this time of the year, the North Pole. And it's cold enough to be real. Aviemore's Santa Claus Land holds everything a youngster could wish for at Christmas time. The highlight is a visit to a toy factory. A quick wish at the wishing well, and then on to that inner sanctum of a child's dream of Christmas. Christmas is an old, old story, one of goodwill, still holding a place in the hearts of children, not only in Aviemore, but all over the world.
So this video was from the British Movie Tone Archives. So clearly there's a reason why I probably moved to Scotland of all places. Traces of Father Christmas over there as well. But perhaps the most debated, the biggest debate around contesting Finland's claim as the home of Santa Claus has been made by Greenland. So from the clips, you can see that, well, everybody knows that Santa Claus comes from Greenland. Walt Disney said so. So the claims that they've accused Finland of making use of the good name of Father Christmas, making it as an advertising and marketing ploy from the Second World War. Basically, everybody has always known. Kids send their letters to North Pole, and Greenland is connected to North Pole, whereas Finland is not. And Finland has responded to these claims, saying, for example, that, well, there's a reason why Santa can't be in Greenland is because there's no reindeers there. Well, not commenting on the truthiness of these claims, but it is true that Finland's claim of the origins of Santa and his residence are quite recent. So if you asked 40, 30 years ago, not many people probably related Father Christmas and Christmas generally to Finland, but it has become quite well known, I would say, today, and especially from the 1980s. So how did it all begin? So how was Santa's home and origin situated in Lapland in Finland? Apologize for the very text-heavy slide, but I'll talk you through it. So in Finland, the story tells that a self-processed good friend of Santa Claus, Markus, who was a host of a children's program in the Finnish radio, revealed on air that Santa Claus lives in Korvatunturi, which is translated in English as a near fell, located in quite close to the Finnish-Russian border in the north of Finland. A very, very remote location on a hill in the middle of nowhere. So this story has been shared and reshared in Finland. And for example, one of the most known children's books author, Mauri Kunnas, 1981, explained how a few Lapps stumbled across Santa's home, made of houses, workshops and stables, even had its own airfield. So who on earth would build a village in such a place? Well, who else but Santa Claus? So a story has followed up from this, saying that, well, to be able to hide his home, secret hiding place in the Earfell in the middle of nowhere, and also to be able to meet visitors from all over the world, he had to move. So he moved to the other side of Lapland, to Rovaniemi, the capital of Lapland. He had to move his workshop, he had to move his post office closer to the road network to make it easier, but also to make it easier to meet people. Another story says, based on the archives, I've been reading a lot of beautiful stories, says that the provincial governor of Lapland liked Santa Claus so much that he declared the whole of Lapland as the home of Father Christmas. But this story didn't really take off outside Finland, internationally. So there was a struggle, and the Travel Association of Finland in the 1948 was saying that, well, because of this very short winter season and a very short summer season, accommodation hotels are really struggling to be profitable. People are not finding Finland because Finland is one of the most expensive countries in the world, which is probably still the case, but plans to grow international tourism in Finland will try out even before they begin. And saying that more foreign visitors, they go to Sweden and Norway as they have a better kind of transport infrastructure than we do in the remote Finland. So quite a bit of work has to be done, and who knows? Maybe it was luck. A lot of work was done in the following year, in 1950. In May 1950, when Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt came to visit Rovaniemi in Finland, in Lapland. So after the Second World War and Lapland War, much of Lapland and Rovaniemi were destroyed. They were burned down. So there was a lot of redevelopment, reconstruction. And Rovaniemi and Lapland, they were the receivers of aid by UNICEF's former or predecessor. It was called the UNRWA. And Eleanor Roosevelt was known for being a civil rights activist, the former First Lady of America. She wanted to come and see this redevelopment work going on in Finland, in Lapland. So in 1950, he was coming to Lapland, and in 2 weeks, Arctic Circle cabin was built. It's this cabin in the last two pictures. Just to host this prestigious guest coming all the way to Finland, Lapland. So from the airport, she was transported to the Arctic Circle cabin, which is situated physically at the Arctic Circle, so you can cross Arctic Circle. And it got a lot of attention and interest around the world. And in a few years after that, the cabin had to be extended because a lot of people passing by wanted to come and see it. They wanted to post a letter with the Arctic Circle post stamp, and so that's where it basically started. It became known in the world as well. Around that time, a lot of national and regional level work was done to develop and support the growth in tourism as well. So Lapland was training its own travel guides. It was developing its accommodation infrastructure, as well as developing new hiking routes and so on and so on. And the largest, in 1954, it was the largest publisher in France. They published a travel guide of Finland, which was great news. And at that time, in '56, there was a large number of visas granted here in the UK to travel in Finland. So a lot of interest was rising towards Lapland. But the day that really marked the birth of Christmas tourism in particular was Christmas Day 1984. So what happened then? I'm sure most of you know it. So British Airways Concorde flight landed in Rovaniemi in Lapland. So a decade before that, in '72, a British sales representative of Finnair, the main airline of Finland, he came to visit Lapland, and he was very impressed. He came back and he thought that, okay, we need to make world know about Lapland. So he started to work with the British media to make it known. Around the same time, another travel agency based in the UK he flew his conference delegates. They were based in Helsinki, but he flew them over to Lapland, to Rovaniemi for 1 day. They got a gift from Santa Claus, and they were very impressed. So he started to think, there are opportunities here. But it wasn't until '84 when Goodwood Travel Agency, again based here in the UK, got this marvelous idea that let's fly a Concorde plane to Lapland. So in just less than 2 hours from London to Rovaniemi, they flew for the day with about 100 visitors on board to meet Father Christmas, to ride with snowmobiles, to see reindeer, have Christmas dinner with 50 different dishes. And it was quite a success, despite the weather. So this is again from the archives, a few pictures, but can you see any snow? It wasn't very successful in terms of the weather, so it was raining, but luckily people didn't really know what to expect going to Rovaniemi, Lapland. So despite of that, it was a big success. So that really marked the day, the birth of Christmas tourism. In the following year, 1985, they did it again. But they did it also during midsummer in June, the nightless nights with daylight, 24 hours a day, as well as in Christmas time. And some people claimed that because of the first Concorde flight in '84, it sparked so much attention around the media as well as the locals. There were 10,000 of local people coming to the airport to see the actual plane. And it was quite a bit of news. It caused tens of kilometers of traffic queues, which is quite big in the scale of Rovaniemi. So they were claiming that, okay, we kind of got this for free. It wasn't because of the travel industry in Finland, but we need to take advantage of this and develop it further, because otherwise next year they're going to fly to Sweden or somewhere else. But they did fly back the following year and the year after that, and it has expanded ever since. So as I said earlier on, 96, Enontekiö, my hometown, they hosted their first charter flights. In 85, in addition to the Concorde flight, Finnair, the Finnish airline, flew delegates from Tokyo, Japan, from media representatives and travel agencies on board to come and see what Lapland is like. And ever since, it really has grown quite extensively. So what about today? So if we look at the business, what it has become. So as I said, I went to Rovaniemi a few weeks ago, and this is just a few of the brochures that I picked up. So, but you can see the elements that are represented in these brochures. So, of course, it's very much about Father Christmas. It is about the nature, the Arctic lights, the snow, not only the nature, the climate, and the people. If you look at the infrastructure that they've created, so if you go on the website of Visit Finland, you can see some statistics on the front page saying that there are 190,000 fells, reindeers, there are fells, and there is one Santa Claus. So this magical, mythical place represents a reality of the whole Father Christmas. There's Santa Claus main post office, there's Santa Claus official airport, and so on and so on. So it's been quite a remarkable story of collective branding and storytelling. And of course, so the branding has happened, as I said, collectively. So in 2010, a trademark was registered, Rovaniemi being the official hometown of Santa Claus. And it is known in China, in Japan, South Korea, Russia, United States, and the EU. And the brand states that it is about increasing attractiveness not only to tourists, to the external audiences, but also to locals, the people living in the town, generate more employment, more income, promote local export companies, and increase investment in the region. It is still very, very remote. But it is growing all the time. The core values of the Christmas brand of Rovaniemi is authenticity. So being original, being natural, having the Santa Claus village open throughout the year, giving and caring, so being hospitality, caring for others. You can go and see Santa free of charge. Being surprising and creative, so thinking outside the box, thinking differently, acting differently, and constant presence. So saying that Christmas is a state of mind that is present in Lapland each day of the year. They also have they outline principles of collaboration for their tourism network partners. So first of all, you have to believe in Santa Claus, otherwise you're not part of the network. There's responsibilities, the network partners have to continuously monitor the quality, and so on. But of course, the most important person, PR person in a way, is Santa Claus himself. So going back to the archives and seeing how the figure of Santa Claus was built in Finland, I've looked at materials from an advertising agency that was hired to really think through the appearance of Santa. And it outlined that Santa Claus had to be friendly, personal, and jolly. The outfit had to be according to the culture of Lapland. So in the video early on, you saw he's not wearing just a pure red suit or black boots, but the boots are Lapis style. The trousers are green, I think it was. So it's a bit more relaxed, I would say, of course, because he's sitting there welcoming visitors throughout the year, and then on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, he puts on his best outfit. Mrs. Claus had to be warm and gentle, not queenly. Sorry, I'm translating this from Finnish, so no, not sure if that's really the correct word. And the elves had to be joyful, positive, fairy tale-like. That's why I got hired. Also, it outlines what's Santa's age. According to a story, his reindeer driving license says that pretty old. About his education, about his parents, and so on and so on. And as I've mentioned many times, he does welcome visitors each day of the year, so you can go and visit him. All right, so some conclusions. Why I think this is fascinating, not just because of the phenomena of Santa. I'm saying that the myth itself doesn't cause a world to exist. So we can't just come up with a story and there it is. Let's make a market. But instead, there has to be certain conditions and elements in place for this to work. So Finland and Lapland, they've been successful in it in terms of the remoteness, the authenticity, the snowy, cold terrains. So you have to have those certain conditions in place. Of course, last year, due to some exceptionally warm conditions, I think the end of November, people were still waiting for the snow to arrive. But this is not the case this year. Luckily, I was just speaking with my mum. Apparently it was minus 27 degrees yesterday, and today minus 2 degrees, but snowing beautifully. So there will be snow. And despite the weather conditions, Christmas won't be cancelled, so it will be there, but it does help. This picture here is from the Santa Claus village in Rovaniemi. I took it while I was visiting, and the line you can see, that's the Arctic Circle line, so you can cross on both sides. And it takes more than one actor. It takes more than one Santa Claus to realize and materialize this industry, this business. So as I said in the beginning, I haven't really looked at the consumer side, but I've been interested in how the different stakeholders coordinate together and make this happen. So what are the negotiations, the imaginations, the contestations, the misfires when the snow doesn't arrive? What do we do? How do we kind of reframe the story? So it is about networked market creation. Just as an example of such a network, this is from my previous publication when I was looking at Enontekijä specifically. So this is a very small scale network of actors in Rovaniemi. It's much bigger, but it's not just the travel agency which has a commercial relationship with the tourists. They often charge for the travel package, but behind that, there's a lot going on. So usually at this destination of Finland, it's the safari tour operator and their own network of subcontractors that make this possible. So there are the smaller scale entrepreneurships. I was talking to a reindeer farmer who's been operating from 1984, from the very first Concorde flight until today, and grown, but they started very small as kind of a business in addition to their day-to-day job. So these different actors, they come together and coordinate it together. It's a beautiful choreography that takes place for people to come and meet Father Christmas and have all these other activities and experiences around it. And another key aspect that I find very, very interesting around this is about the stories and the storytelling. So as I've been reading in the archives, I've found multiple stories from advertising agencies to the media. Some stories are anonymous, so unfortunately I'm not able to track who's actually written them. But the way that these stories combine facts and fiction, how they are beautifully crafted, explaining why Father Christmas moved from the Earfell to Rovaniemi, and why does he live in Finland of all places. So I'm saying that it's an interaction between the facts and fiction, and actually in the end, the myth becomes a reality in a way, and transforms often case into economic values. And if everything is in place, it becomes a beautiful Christmas experience. And of course, this has to be sustainable. So any business and especially any tourist attraction, there's a limit how much you can grow, and especially in a place like Lapland, where it's very much based on the authenticity, the remoteness. It's quiet, it's peaceful, it's the cleanest air in the world. How much you can grow that? So one of my interviews said that, well, we have Christmas every day of the year, meaning that actually the spirit of Christmas, that's what I call Santa Clausation in a way. It's there, and that guides their operations. But there's lots of space and opportunities outside the Christmas season as well. So that's what they are actually working on at the moment, how to grow and extend the Christmas season beyond other times of the year as well. And as you saw from the video from Scotland, you can go and see Father Christmas even if there's no snow. So everything is possible. This is just a short summary. I'm conscious that we're running out of time. I want to leave some time for questions. But these are my marketing lessons as a lecturer of marketing that I've taken away so far from my study. So first of all, this is the most networked market that I've seen during my career in terms of research. It's been from the building of the infrastructure itself, how we transport, accommodate, and host these visitors from all over the world, into actually enabling this experience of meeting Father Christmas. So different actors come together, they negotiate, and the myth kind of legitimizes and lets them calculate what is valuable, what is doable, what do we need to change from the myth, from the story. So not all reindeer can fly, but there are certain reindeer who can't do that. So how do we accommodate those kinds of changes when there's not enough snow, when the lake doesn't freeze? Those kinds of situations, we have to reassemble, reframe the story, and sustainable growth, as I mentioned earlier on. So how do we make it and keep it sustainable for the locals as well as for the tourists? And finally, be jolly and be good. Christmas all around. All right, but I think I'll finish off here. Thank you very much for listening.